Okay, so as you tune in, drop me a comment. Let me know that you're here. And in 2 minutes or so, we're going to get going. So if you are tuning into the replay, scroll forward about 2 minutes if you want to get right into the podcast. But we're going to give it a minute, let a couple of people tune in, and then we will get this thing rolling. So today we are going to be talking about giving yourself compassion. This is an incredibly important topic for athletes and coaches everywhere to understand that you are humans before you're athletes. And so this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a little while. I've brought it into the podcast a couple of times before, but it's always a little bit of a touchy subject. So we're going to be talking about giving yourself compassion. We're going to be getting into it in about a minute. But before we get into it, drop me a comment. Let me know how your day's going. Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're watching. And in about a minute, we're going to get into the show talking about giving yourself compassion. Before we do, though, I want to reinforce with everybody the people we are looking for on this show, the people that we're looking for to be watching this podcast, tuning into this podcast, are athletes that are looking to make it to the next level in their sport. Athletes that are looking for things they can do, things they can work on in order to reach the top level that they can reach and build their dream careers in sport. Because if you don't know it already, becoming an athlete at a high level is about so much more than simply the sport itself, and so much more than simply training to reach that high level. There's mental side of the game. There are things that you need to be doing outside of the sport. There is so much to it, and we absolutely need to be compassionate to that. So in about 10 seconds, we're going to get into it. One of the streams doesn't seem to be working, but hopefully it'll come back in. All right, so we're going to get into the show talking about giving yourself compassion in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the show designed to help athletes gain an edge on their opponent and build their dream careers in sport. Today, we are going to be talking about giving yourself compassion. This is such an important topic because this is something that I believe so many athletes need to hear, because we forget sometimes that before we're athletes, we're human. I know that you guys are working towards high level goals. I know that you guys are high performers. I know that you guys have a lot going on, but you've got to remember that you're a human before you're an athlete. And the reason I say this is because I have so many conversations with athletes where they talk about their training schedules, and they talk about how they're training 2 to 3 hours a day, and they're trying to add more training in because, one of their coaches said one time that this one guy who's in the pros trains 4 hours a day. So, how do they ever expect to make it if they're only training 2 to 3 hours a day and these other guys are training 4? So we're going to break down first why that's ridiculous. And then after we break down why that's ridiculous, then we're going to get deeper into this topic. So first of all, if you are right now getting started in your athletic career and you are comparing yourself to what the pros are doing, hard stop. Because what you've got to remember is likely these pros, these higher level people, these people that are at the top of the game right now are only training and competing. And if they're only training and competing, then they are going to be able to handle more than you can handle. So stop comparing yourself to what they're doing and start focusing on what you're doing. Start focusing on improving what you're doing and making sure that your only objective is to be better today than you were yesterday, to be better tomorrow than you are today, and to continue that trajectory all the way through to the end of your career. And now let's get into that topic. Let's get into the idea of giving yourself compassion. This is something that I am very passionate about as a coach. This is something that I know many coaches out there are very passionate about as well. Because again, we're high performers. We're high level people. But that is exactly what we are. We're people. One of the things that I find people really struggle with here is when I speak to a lot of athletes, they're dealing with chronic issues. They're dealing with, knee pain that just doesn't want to go away, or back pain that just doesn't want to go away. Anybody listening right now, drop a comment if you're dealing with some nagging issue that doesn't feel that bad, but just doesn't seem to want to go away. So many people have those. So many people have those issues that, they've been nagging at them for a while. it's not that bad. I can train through it, but it just doesn't want to go away. And the issue here is that that is your body telling you that something's wrong. And if you ignore it over time and just hope that it goes away one day, that nagging issue is going to turn into injury. That nagging issue is going to turn into something serious that is going to force you to take time away, and probably more time than if you just took a little bit of time to rest it right now. Right. So, one of the main important things I want to get across in giving yourself compassion is listening to your body. When you have those nagging issues, when you have those nagging injuries, I know it's our reflex to think, I can train through it, I can keep pushing, I'll just keep going. But this is your body telling you that something's wrong. And so you've got to weigh the long-term issues here. Number one, you can keep pushing through it until it becomes an actual injury, and then you can be out for months instead of a week or two. Or you can take a week off now, do a couple of rehab exercises to actually start working on that nagging pain or injury, and then be back full force in a week, 2 weeks at the most. Which one sounds worse? Personally, being out for months because of something that I could have prevented sounds way worse than taking a week off. But the reason that I believe we don't want to do this, and the reason that I believe that athletes don't do this, is because they're afraid of what teammates are going to say. You know, you're taking a week off because your knee kind of hurts, or you're taking a week off because your shoulder's bugging you, or even a few days off because your shoulder's bugging you. And, you know, teammates start getting in on you. Oh, come on, you should train through that, and start kind of giving you a little bit of shit for it. Our natural reaction is not to want to give them that opportunity. Our natural reaction is not to want to allow that to happen, because we don't want to be looked at as soft. But personally, I would rather a teammate's making fun of me a little bit because I took a day off that I needed because my body was hurting, than continue to push through it until it becomes a chronic injury, and in the end, have to take way longer off. Does that make sense? But our twisted view of not wanting to be looked at as a pussy is keeping us training when we should be resting, and in turn is forcing us out of training for longer. You see how messed up that is? So my challenge for you, if you're listening to this right now, is to start tuning out the noise and listening to your body, tuning out the noise and giving yourself the compassion that you so desperately need in order to be successful long-term. And on that note as well, you've got to remember, what is the ultimate goal here? Is the ultimate goal here to push through this training session? Or is the ultimate goal here to make it to the UFC, to make it to the ADCC championships, to be a national or world boxing champion? Whatever the sport is for you, the ultimate goal is not where you're at today. The ultimate goal is down the road. And if the ultimate goal is down the road is where your mind needs to be. Your mind needs to be on, what can I do today to set myself up for success in the future? And what you can do today is understand that when you have those nagging injuries, when you have those nagging pains, when you're burnt out, when your body is dying, you need time away. And this does not make you soft. This does not make you a pussy. This doesn't mean that you're going to lose progress. This makes you smart. Your teammates might not be able to see that right away, but if your teammates can't see that right away, that's a them problem, not a you problem. Because as you take the time off, rest, recover those injuries, get back to training full force, and start kicking the shit out of them, they're going to realize eventually, oh, maybe this whole grinding 24 hours a day, 7 days a week thing isn't the way to succeed. Maybe we've got to be smarter about how we train, and in turn, have more success long-term, instead of just being known as the tough guy who can grind through anything. Because remember, your goal is not to be the tough guy. Your goal is to succeed. Your goal is to win. Your goal is to advance. Your goal is to build a career in the sport. And showing how tough you are in the gym, showing how much you can grind through, showing how you still showed up to training when your arm's hanging out of the socket, isn't going to help you succeed long-term in the sport. It's just not. What it's going to do is cause chronic shoulder injuries, and then probably force you to retire early. And on that note of talking about training as well, Think about it this way. I know so many of you out there think that any one training session, if you take a day away, if you take an extra day because your body's in pain, your body hurts, whatever it is, and you take that extra rest day that you so badly don't want to take, I know that so many of you are thinking, well, I'm going to lose progress. I'm not going to get better today. And if I don't get better today, then I'm not going to make it. Think about it this way. Does one training session make you successful? Does one training session allow you to make it to the next level? Does one training session, create that ultimate athlete that you're trying to become? No. Consistent training over time creates the results. So if you're training 5 times a week and then 1 week you train 4 times instead of 5, that's not going to be this devastating, horrifying lack of progress that for some reason you think it is. What that's going to do is that's going to refresh your body. And as it refreshes your body, that's going to allow you to train at a higher level when you come back and in turn make more progress in the rest of those sessions. Because one training session doesn't make an athlete, just like one rest day doesn't break an athlete. And where this gets iffy and why I have shied away from this topic in the past is because what I do want to make sure people know as well is that this is not me saying stop showing up to training. This is not me saying you don't need to train hard to be successful. This is not me saying every time anything's sore ever take a day off. It's finding the balance. It's understanding that you need to figure out what you need and you need to continue to advance from there. If every time something is sore or every time you're busy or every time you're the slightest bit stressed or tired or whatever, you skip training, you're also not going to make progress. So the goal is to be self-aware, understand when you need the extra day and when you're just taking it because you don't want to show up. Those are two very different things, and that's something I really want to enforce as well. The goal here is not to just start skipping training sessions. The goal here is to find the balance that you need. Now, how do we do this? Start looking for the signs, right? Start looking for the signs. If your knee is a little bit sore one day, show up to training anyway. Train through it. Maybe take a set or 2 off if there's something that you're doing that's really bugging your knee. But show up to training, push, do what you need to do. If that same knee pain is persisting for 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row, now that's the sign that you need the day away. That's the sign that you need to take that extra time to let that knee rest to be able to come back and perform better. And if you take that time away, you take that day off, and the knee is continuing to give you trouble, now that is your body telling you that you need to go get it checked out. And I understand that if you go get it checked out, the doctor might say you need to take a week off training and you don't want to take that week off. Let me remind you, you don't want to take that week off because obviously you're trying to train hard because you're trying to succeed, you're trying to get better in the sport. But if you don't take that week off and that mild knee pain that requires 1 week of rest turns into a blown out ACL that requires 6 months off and then 6 months of rehab, which one's going to be worse? It's going to be the year off with the blown out ACL. It's not going to be the 1 week off with that mild tweak in the knee, right? And this is obviously just one example. This is obviously just one very simplified example, but I hope I'm making my point. Training hard is incredibly important. Training your skills is incredibly important. Building strength, working on your gas tank, building the physical aspect of the athlete is incredibly important. But if your body is breaking down, you are not going to succeed long-term in your sport. If your body is breaking down, you are not going to be able to train your skills at full capacity. If your body is breaking down, you trying to tough it out and go to training anyway and continue to push through it anyway might work for a little while, but you're going to take that one awkward little hit, or you're going to, land a punch in just the wrong kind of way, and your shoulder's going to all of a sudden go from minorly not feeling good to being completely out of the socket, and now you're going to be out for a year. And if you're trying to build a successful career in a sport, having that happen is not going to be beneficial for you. So instead of keeping your ego active and jumping in even when you're hurt, continuing to push even when you know you shouldn't, because you're the tough guy that can push through everything, or you're the tough girl that can push through everything. Instead of doing that, be smarter, be better. Understand that anybody around you that is telling you that you're soft for taking a rest day when something's tweaked or injured, or anybody that's around you that's telling you that you should just grind through it, or, oh, I wouldn't take a day off for that. Fuck that. That doesn't matter. What you need to be focused on is your next level. What you need to be focused on is your career. What you need to be focused on is what you need to do to reach the next level, what you need to do to build that career that you're after. And the opinions of other people in that do not matter. What matters is you. What matters is you staying healthy. What matters is you staying strong. What matters is you being able to train at your best. So stop worrying about what other people are saying about it. Stop worrying about your image in the gym of trying to be the tough person who can grind through any pain or injury. Stop worrying about any of those external factors that you can't control, and start focusing on what matters. Start focusing on what you need to do for you to succeed, and for you to reach the next level, and for you to maintain the structure in your body that you need, the strength, the power, the speed, the stamina that you need in order to be able to compete at your best. Because if your focus remains there, and your focus remains only there, that is how you build the career you want in your sport. That is how you reach the levels that you want in your sport. That is how you sign those $1 million contracts. That is how you compete for those world championships. That is what you need in order to be at your best. And if that is where your focus is, you're putting yourself in the best position possible to get there. But if you spend your time focusing on what other people are saying about you, you spend your time focusing on, trying to be the tough guy, you spend your time focusing on trying to do only everything you can to just be in the gym no matter what, no matter how much pain you're in, or no matter how hurt you are, what that leads to is burnout, what that leads to is injury, and what that leads to ultimately is either an early retirement or not actually making it ever to that level that you're hoping to make it to. So that is it for me. I hope you guys got some value from this podcast. If you did, please share it around with a teammate. Please share it around with your coaches. Share it around with those people that need to hear this message. Because yes, you're a high-level athlete. Yes, you're working towards big things. Yes, that requires a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, and you are on the right path. But you've got to remember you're a human first. You've got to remember where your focus needs to be. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. That is it for me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again very soon.